welcome to the Own Your Epic podcast. My name is Jay Dostal, author of the book Own Your Epic, Leadership Lessons in Owning Your Voice and Your Story. In this podcast, I highlight the stories and voices of educators across the country who are making a difference in schools and uncover what makes them exceptional leaders in their field. By sharing the voices and stories of others, we can all learn to appreciate that each of us is the author of our own epic and our experiences are relatable to others, if we are willing to share them. Let's get started on the Own Your Epic process. Welcome to the Own Your Epic podcast. This is Jay Dostal back with an exciting episode. I know that most of these podcasts involve my conversations with teachers, but today I chose something a little bit more special because she's a special person to me. She makes me look really, really good. Would not be able to do my job without her, but rather than me introduce her, I'm going to have her introduce herself. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
My name is Rebecca Lawson, and I am Dr. Dostal's administrative assistant here at Fayetteville High School, and I make him look good.
That's the understatement of the year. So, I know you've heard this from me on multiple occasions, but I honestly believe that schools could not operate without the administrative assistants, the kitchen workers, and the custodians. I mean, they are the people behind the scenes that make these places run, and you are the epitome of that. And I don't think that everybody understands exactly what you do. So why don't you tell a little bit about, like, what's a day in the life of Rebecca Lawson, administrative assistant to Jay Dostal?
Phew. How long do we have?
We have a 30-minute podcast, so you're going to have to cut back the sarcasm a little bit with me on this one.
Man, you're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. Okay, so it depends on the time of year. These past couple weeks, I think that you knew basically not to talk to me because it was the end of the year, closing up shop for seniors and for getting them out of here and working on graduation stuff. Basically, I view my job as I'm not only your assistant, I am in charge of mama bearing the whole school. And so, like, I feel like it's my job to take care of everybody, and so that their focus is in the classroom where it needs to be for our children and the students. And so if there's something that I can do to help that or take that off someone's plate, then that's what I like to do.
Does that include mama bearing me?
Yes. Like, you'd only worked here like a month, and we found out that I was older than you, and you were like, oh, that makes so much more sense now. And I'm like, what? Why? And you're like, because you're constantly mothering me. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah.
Well, we had to spend a little bit of time on the front end just because I needed to get used to your Southern accent, and you needed to get used to my Nebraska Midwestern accent. And so sometimes
I don't have an accent.
So. We just got lost in translation sometimes, but we won't go into the details of that one. So
there's plenty. There's plenty.
So why don't you tell us why did you want to work in a school? I mean, I know you've had a lot of different roles within the school organization, but what gave you you have background in law enforcement, your family has all that. What made the school be like, you know what, I think I want to work there?
Oh, the money, obviously. It's all about the money. No, so I started out in human resources, and I had come from working in the county doing resources for the whole county employment. So whether it's police officers or grounds workers or what have you. And then someone approached me about going to work for a behavioral health company. And so I was their HR person at this behavioral health company. And then I was approached and asked to come work for the school because that's not a real stretch going from insane people to crazy college or crazy high school kids and, and teachers. But so I came to do that, and I loved that part of my job because in HR, my focus was benefits, and so no one ever goes to see HR benefits person just to see them. Either it's the worst day of their life because they found out they have cancer, or something horrible, or it's the best day of their life because they are having a baby. And so I did that for 10 years for the school district, and I enjoyed that because I could celebrate with the people that needed to be celebrated, but I could console, and I really took it upon myself to help them understand their insurance and how it was going to be okay, and I would fight their insurance claims for them, and yeah, but I took it very hard whenever someone passed away. That was a part that I would bring home with me, and so decided to try something radically different, and that was going to be an admin assistant at a high school. And Lord help me, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But again, I still like that if someone comes to me, they need help, and I can still help them, and I like to help people.
So a couple of things that come up of that. So, and we'll come back to this one about you helping people with their benefits every time we have open enrollment. But I want to go back a little bit to the genesis of you working at Fayetteville High School, because
Yes.
when I was transitioning to this role, you had only been in this role for
6 months.
6 months.
Yes.
And when you found out I was coming, you also found out that you had to interview for the position. So
Yes.
why don't you talk about the nerves?
This man made me re-interview for my position. Okay, I had been with the school at this point for, over 11, 12 years. And then I was told that I had to re-interview for this position that I had radically moved into. And I'm sorry, that's like
in your head, were you thinking, who does this guy think he is coming?
I was like, what a jerk. I don't know what I'm doing. I've only been here 6 months, but oh my God, this is just,
and just so you know, you will commonly hear Rebecca use the terminology "oh my gatos." So for those of you who speak Spanish, it means "oh my cats."
I know it means "oh my cats," but it really sounds like I know what I'm talking about. And for people who don't know Spanish, they're thinking I'm saying "oh my God," so I mean, I don't know what "oh my God," I don't know how to say that in Spanish, but if you say "oh my gatos," for the person that doesn't know, they're like, oh man, she's mad. This is a bad deal. Okay, anyway, yeah, I thought, well, this guy's a jerk. He emails me and says, hey, you got to interview for your spot. And I hadn't interviewed in 12 years. And so I had to work on a resume and redo all that. And then he calls me in, and we're in this little bitty tiny office. And I was so nervous. My bottom lip was shaking. I don't know if you knew that. I think my whole body was shaking.
Well, I had to see how you operate under pressure,
Yeah, and so, yeah, I still remember, one of the questions, well, how do you handle stress? Whew, I totally lied on that to you. I'm like, oh.
And now the truth comes out.
I'm
okay.
Oh, man, stress. Whew, I am cool as a cucumber. And, I go home, I take it out on my husband, yell at him. I mean, that part was true. But, cool as a cucumber. No, you've seen.
Well, so I do want to touch on that a little bit, because I think it's important. Whether you're a teacher working in a PLC, you're an admin assistant who's working with an administrator, there's always that happy medium of how you balance the person out. I know you know this about me, that I'm a big believer in making sure that if I don't possess a certain set of skills or strengths, I try to find that in others. And so, how would you say that you and I balance each other out?
Well,
Like,
first,
how are we the yin and yang?
well, first I want to say that, like, you totally, if you don't possess that skill, I disagree with you there. I think you then obsess until you do possess
Well,
that
that's part
skill.
of it. So you do know me.
So, okay. So, how we balance each other out, man, I don't know. Like, we just kind of hit it off, like, I don't even
Like,
know.
you know, when I'm quiet, I get really quiet.
Yeah, I know you're pissed. Oh, can I say that? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
well, you just did, so we're good.
Okay.
So you know when I'm really quiet, you know what mood I'm in. I also know about you that when you are like really hyper and talkative, that you're nervous about something.
No, that's not true. That's totally not true. I'm always hyper and talkative.
No, I mean even more hyper and talkative than you normally are. You're genuinely nervous. I also know just by the look on your face when you are frustrated or stressed, and in those moments, I need to, and you hate this. You absolutely hate this, but I ask you anyway. Do you want me to?
Oh my God, I hate this so much.
I haven't even said it.
I know.
What do I say?
I know.
What do I say?
It annoys the crap out of me.
What do I say?
You say, do you want me to listen or do you want me to solve? Or, I don't know. I told you to quit telling me, so I've tried to block that from my memory. But that makes me so mad.
When more times than not, it's you just want me to listen, which I do.
You do.
And we get through it together. Because the way that you and I are situated in this building, just for the listeners out there, we are isolated from the rest of the building. Like, the kids and the teachers are in another part of this campus, and Rebecca and I are in this far off land where we have this view of the building that I don't think people necessarily understand how, like, it's her and I most days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And so we better like each other.
Right.
Otherwise, this was not going to work.
Yeah, especially during the summer, because it's just like me and you and maybe one or two other people.
And no air conditioning.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Yeah. I think that, like, we balance each other out because I know when you're having a bad day, when you're really quiet and stuff. And so that's my cue to make you laugh, which I usually do something to make you laugh. And you know, when I'm stressed and having a bad day, you know, you'll either just leave me alone or you'll try and make it better. But
Have I ever actually made it better?
No. It irritates me because you say, now you need to punch the shark and you need to have a fierce conversation. And I am like the world, like I just keep letting people dump on me. And I understand this about myself. I do. And he tells me, you just let them dump on you. This is another one y'all are going to hear, is you get what you accept. Oh, well, I know that, but
no, you get what you tolerate.
Yeah. Well, so I just let people, you know, just it just keeps building up, and then I'll come in and I'll shut the door, and then I'll like explode, and you'll go, do you want me to listen or do you want me to solve it? And then if I say solve it, which I've never said solve it, he would say, well, you need to have a fierce conversation. That's the bottom line. That's always going to be the answer to, do you want me to fix it or listen? It's always going to be, well, you need to have that fierce conversation. I am the most anti-confrontational person, except for one other person that you and I know. And so it's just, but he has taught me, I am getting my voice.
You've stepped up and you've had some difficult conversations, and I'm very proud of you for doing that. The real litmus test of this is going to be, are you going to be able to do that after I leave and continue moving forward, or are you going to revert back?
I can't believe you're leaving me.
I know. Yeah, I shouldn't have brought that up because Rebecca and I have been, well, Rebecca has gone through tears and the range of emotions. I usually just sit back and try to console her
He
And
doesn't. He doesn't. He gets all giddy and talks about how excited he is, and I'm happy for him. Don't get me wrong, but you need to understand, when he came here, I told him, I need you for 13 years, because that's how, and he never agreed to that, but we did say until 2025. So
yeah, I totally fell through on that. But
he
to be fair, you did become the, what is it? What do you call it to our bulldog? What do you call it? The god dog mother?
I am Winston Walter Dostal, the greatest bulldog in the history of all bulldogs. I am his emergency contact, which when I was asked if I could be his emergency contact, I in turn felt that to mean that they wished me to be his godmother. So clearly I am Winston's dog mother, and yeah. And I mean, she asked me if I would be, when they moved to Arkansas, if I would be the emergency contact for the kids too.
And you're listed.
I know.
You are.
I know.
You are.
I didn't step on any toes. I mean, they'd been alive for a few years, so wasn't going to try to fulfill that role for them. But Winston was a newborn, and I mean, hey, it's just I'm his dog godmother, and so you better not try and fill that position.
No, that position has been filled by you permanently.
Good.
Okay, so let me. You and I go in a variety of different directions. It's sometimes amazing that
So
we get
I have ADD really bad, and he just laughs at me, but he knows that at any moment it could squirrel, and like I'm sitting here, his office is full of windows, and I'm just, that's.
Yeah, we haven't maintained eye contact once throughout this entire.
I'm trying.
So let me try to shift that back to
Okay.
the purpose of this podcast.
Oh.
So let me ask you another question.
Okay.
So the whole purpose behind this podcast, two very important steps in the Own Your Epic process, which you have the book and you have the stickers, and you made me an awesome sign that goes above my door that's going to go wherever I'm at. So you're familiar with this entire concept because you've been living it with me for the past 4 years. But two very important steps in that process are to curate and cultivate your story so you can amplify your voice. And so I'm going to ask you a question, even though I may have heard the story before because we tell each other almost everything. But, what's that one story that you continually go back to that you tell others about yourself that has kind of shaped you into the person that you are? What's that kind of defining moment?
I don't know if I have a defining moment.
Or moments.
So when I was growing up, I lived in a small town here in Arkansas. It's called Eureka Springs, and it's a tourist trap. So people just come there all summer, and it's got the Passion Play and the haunted Crescent Hotel and all this stuff. So when my parents, my dad was a retired state trooper, and so they opened up a restaurant. And
what was the name of the restaurant again?
Burger Smokehouse.
Burger Smokehouse.
And then they opened up several restaurants. At one time we had Pappy's Meat and Taters, and we had.
Wait a second, I'm sorry, I've never heard that name before.
Yes,
what was it called?
Pappy's Meat and Taters, and
potatoes, taters.
Yeah.
Okay,
Pappy, because I've got 6 brothers, so
yes.
The grandkids called my dad Papa, but Papa's Meat and Taters, that doesn't sound as good. So it's a tourist town, and so
gotta make it sing.
In the 80s and 90s, it was a big tourist trap, and people were like, "Oh, we're going to Arkansas," and so I don't know. He made it hillbilly. He made it as hillbilly as he could, and I mean, people ate into it. He had a whole thing of label of jellies and jams he sold, and just.
I bet he hammed up calling the hogs too, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
That's a topic for another.
That is. So when I was little, I would go in with them, and I would make a pallet on top of the deep freezer and just hang out, because that was before cell phones and all of that. And then so when I was 8, my dad decided that it was time for me to start working. And so
At 8?
at 8. And so I was bussing tables. And then when I turned 12, I got to start waiting tables. And so it's funny because my mama, she was in the back and she was doing all the cooking. And then, and the brother closest to me in age, he was in the back and he was the dishwasher. And then my dad, he was out front and he was schmoozing and talking, and he sat at the register and, you know, all that
So he's
stuff.
like the front of house.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I mean, and this, like I said, this was like 80s, 90s, you know, he's sitting out there, and if our dining room was full, you know, he had this table he sat at, and, you know, he had a big old cigarette hanging out his mouth and drinking a cup of coffee. I mean, they just, you know, they didn't give a crap back then, you know. It was just, that was when there was no non-smoking and smoking. But so anyway, I learned how to be able to talk to people through that interaction with my dad, you know. So I became very, where I could talk to people. And my brother, he isn't. He was, now he can cook. I can't cook, you know, like my mama. So I didn't learn that skill of it like my brother did. Like, he can make those recipes, but he can't talk to people, and it's kind of embarrassing. But so
You know what? That explains. I bet you got to meet just a variety of different people.
do. And then, and some people, you know, they would come every year, and like, it was just so, like, they wrote letters to my parents saying, you know, we feel like we've grown up with your daughter. We went through braces with her, and like, sent them stuff for me graduating and stuff, like sent cards and checks. And or these one people, they went every year to Toadsuck, Arkansas, and they
By the way, for the listeners out there, that is an actual place, Toadsuck, Arkansas.
and so they have Toadsuck days. And so every year they'd bring me a Toadsuck Days shirt. I mean, like, that was just really cool. Like, you know, you like kind of, I don't know, you just develop and you meet people. And so, like.
So I had, like, we've known each other for 4 years now, and that is the first time I've heard that story. And that explains so much about you, because anybody can stop by your office and ask a question, which you'll gladly help them with, but it will eventually turn into some completely different conversation where you're talking about, you know, their grandkids or their own kids or what they're doing this week, just by the nature of this. So that explains so much about you.
I know, you know, whenever.
So instead of calling you Little Becky Lawson, which I know
it.
annoys you,
I'm going to punch you in the face.
Can I? We have this ongoing banter. She tells me she's going to punch me in the face, and I call her Little Becky Lawson. But I think I'm going to change it to Flo now, or Diner.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could,
Okay.
You could. Well, so what shaped me was my dad, and being able to teach me how to talk to people. But I mean, like, I don't think you could get away with that stuff now, you know, like, and I would go from working at my dad. So we'd get up at 5 a.m. We'd be at the restaurant, open it up at 6, and I'd work there till noon. And then I would have to go downtown to this bakery, and I'd work at this bakery from noon till 5. And then I would go from the bakery to the train station, and I would you know, when you go to like touristy places and they go, oh, you know, can I get a picture of your family? And then charge them $5 when they come back. So like, I would like take these pictures, I'd get on and I'd be like, oh, you know, put your arm around her, act like you like her. And they would just hem it.
Were you guessing weights too and all that?
No. And then, so I would, the dinner trains and stuff would get back about midnight, and I would go home and sleep for a couple hours, and we'd do it all again. But see, I had to, because my brothers, so I'm the baby, I have 6 brothers, and they all got their first car bought for them. And well, by the time I came along, perfection, they were like, okay, well, we're going to do this one different. And so like, I didn't get my first car paid for me. It was a crock, because my oldest brother, he's still mooching off of them and moving back home. And yeah, so that was one thing I said when I left. I wasn't going to do that. And
so you got the ability to talk to people, and you developed a strong sense of worth. See, I think that's where you and I have a lot of common ground, is we've got a strong work ethic. We both take home work more often than we should. We're constantly working on things that are related to the school just because we want to get things done. And I think that's why we're a good team on this.
We weren't done right.
Yeah. So we've got about 5 minutes left.
Oh,
so,
that flew by.
It flew by, I know,
oh my
right?
Gosh.
So
I've
got
too many stories.
No, this is great. This is exactly why I wanted you on the podcast, because you bring a totally different perspective to school, and that's kind of feeding into this question, which is, education is really tough right now. You have a lot of people who are retiring or leaving for other jobs, and there's not a lot of people who are wanting to come back into teaching roles, admin assistant roles, bus drivers, whatever. What advice could you give to people who maybe are thinking about it, and why is working in schools one of the why do you continue to do it? Because
for the money.
You have skills and you could get paid better elsewhere, but why do you do it?
Burnout, fatigue, that's all real things. But when you see a student that you've made a difference in their life, or that you're their person that they can come and talk to on campus, or just that may be the only smile or kind words that they hear all day, and that's why I keep snacks and I keep candy in my office. I
know you're responsible for at least 10 of the 15 pounds that I've gained since I've been here.
Yeah, but
she said that with such heart.
It's you. Once you experience that change and the ability to break down a wall or connect with a student, there's nothing like it. There's nothing better than, and then when they come back and tell you, oh, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, or, tell you how one thing, giving them like a package of crackers or Doritos or something, that was like all they had to eat that day, and you had no idea, or that you just giving them a hug and telling them, hey, I'm so happy to see you today, or whatever. I'm not in the classroom, so I don't have that. So what experience I do have with it, it's treasurable. I mean, there are bad situations. There's no bad kids. There's kids that don't know the difference between right or wrong, haven't been taught properly, or don't care, whatever. But when you make that difference, that one time, you'll be hooked.
See, I knew having you on this podcast would be outstanding.
Wow.
Well, we are at the end of our time.
Oh, okay.
And I want to thank you publicly for everything that you've done for me. And I knew that we had been planning this for so long. Let's wait to the last week of school to record this.
Yes.
As kind of the send-off. But I will treasure not only this podcast, but just our relationship and the conversations we had. And I'm not changing my cell phone number, so you can always call me or text me and give me grief about the Huskers and how the Hogs are everything.
Go Hogs.
I'm sure I'm probably going to see you in Omaha at some point, because...
Not at some point, every year, because the Razorbacks will make it, the Omaha Hogs. And so every year, I'm every year.
You've got a place to stay. Mel and I will let you and Keith and Cooper shack up, and you can bring the dogs, and you get to see your dog, godson, I guess, is what we're going to call it.
Dog.
Your god dog. Okay. So, well, thank you again. Loved having you on the podcast, and thank you to listeners for tuning in for this episode of the Own Your Epic podcast.
I know this is going to be your favorite one.
Oh, this will absolutely be my favorite one. You know it will.
I know.
Tune in next time for the next episode, and until then, onward and own your epic.
Thank you for joining me on today's podcast. To find out more about Own Your Epic, check out my website at ownyourepic.blogspot.com, where you can purchase my book or subscribe to all the latest blog and podcast updates. Until next time, own your epic and share your voice and your story. It matters and can make a difference in the lives of others.